When I was around 25, my mother went to live abroad, and I stayed living with just one of my brothers. And at the time, so I had to start cooking at home because it was never something that I really had shown interest when I was younger, because I was never a kid that was always grabbed my mother or my grandmother to spend the weekends cooking cakes or whatever. No, I would do kid stuff like playing football, climbing trees, whatever. So at that time, when I was around 26, I was obliged to cook or so, and I started doing some dinners at home with friends. And at the end, I think that my real interest about it was because I realized that it was a success with girls, so it was a funny stuff to do. And actually, that was how I started to really enjoy cooking and start testing the other stuff. That was actually the base of my cooking career.
What are the chefs and other kitchens that actually had the deepest mark on your the style?
Yeah, I'd say the chefs was mainly the chefs that I worked with for different reasons. So the first chef that really influenced me was Chef Nuno Barros, that gave me my first shot, because I didn't have really a culinary background or formation, and actually gave me a chance to work with him. It was a small restaurant in Oeiras, in the coast in between Lisbon and Cascais, was called 2780 Taberna. That was let's say a big success at the time in 2007, and that was a real restaurant that worked about people that worked there. They really had passion about hospitality, about cooking, about receiving customers, friends, whatever. And but let's say cooking-wise, the chefs that marked me the most was definitely Chef Frédéric Simonin, that I worked in Paris, Chef Manuel Martinez, also from Paris, from Relais Le 13, Chef Jérôme Bonnet. It was my first chef in Paris as well, gave me the first shot there, even though I didn't speak a word of French. And we really, actually in the beginning, we didn't get along at all, but there was a point that we really connected, and nowadays we're really good friends. And but I would say that those three, cooking-wise, were the ones that had the biggest influence in my career.
What is the biggest kind of learning that you got from cooking abroad in France?
From cooking abroad, since it was mainly about understanding, I would say, understanding the products, cooking with, so really understand the process, not go through shortcuts, really understand all the basis of the cooking, and with every one of them, since they are Meilleur Ouvrier de France, which is a really important, might say, step mark in their careers in France. It's always about flavor, respecting the product, the steps of the recipe, and there's no shortcuts as in life. It's the same as cooking. There's no shortcuts. You really have to do the simple things. You have to do it really well done, in order that in the end the more complicated ones will make sense. Because if in the start it's not well done, in the end it's not going. It can be pretty, but it will not be good for sure if the first steps are not well done.
When you look at the product, what comes first? So product as a material, the technique that you want to apply to get the most out of this product?
It's more, I would say that in the start it's always the product, because the product has to be in the good season of the year to use it, so that it will enhance better the flavor that we are searching. Then I would say that it will come the the emotion about the dish or the product, the emotion that we want to show through that product. In the end, I would say that the technique, it's a means to an end. It's the way that we're gonna show more respect and enhance more the flavors of the beginning of the idea.
Is there still kind of a flavor that you're still chasing, something, the product that you cannot get the hold of?
Well, there's definitely products that I'd say that I have more, I'm not so at ease working with than others. And well, one that's, I still don't fully grab the end of it. I would say that is red cabbage. Red cabbage, it's my Everest, I would say.
And so you're experimenting again and again with it?
Yes, well, no, I'm lost that battle, I guess. No, yeah, sometimes I do experiment stuff with him, but it's not, well, it's not one of my priorities. Maybe it's a product that sometimes I will not, yeah. I do use it for salads or something, but it's more for, I'd say, simple stuff that I really want to do it, but I like it. It's not a problem. It's not something that I don't like, because for me, I say that there's no bad products. There's only bad ways of doing a product.
How do you know when the product, let's say, when the product needs like minimal intervention, or when you want to transform it, let's say, again and again to get the most out of it?
Well, that's always about tasting. Tasting is the most important. When I say you have to always be tasting everything in order to fully understand the products and its stages when you're cooking it. But so it's about the natural juice of the products, its tenderness, to understand if you do a long cooking to really soften the product, or if it has to be really fast and hard to keep the flavor inside, because texture-wise it's already at its best spot. But you can only understand that by testing and tasting a lot of times.
The stuff food you were posting, is it the way you test?
Well, sometimes it is, because either we test a bunch of times till we're sure about what we're doing, and the stuff food, it's a good example that sometimes we use to do that, or sometimes it can also be a recipe that it's a fail. When I say it's a fail, so we think it's going to be good to enter the menu, and then for some reason it's not still at the optimal time, taste, whatever, and we have it in staff meal. In that way we can all of us taste it and I don't know, give tips, pointers in order to improve it. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, and then out of the dishes you assemble the menu. And what is important for the menu? Contrast between the dishes, the taste, or harmony? Yeah,
well, on constructing a menu, so there's a lot of different things that we need to have in account. Like, first, I would say, since it's my restaurant and that's why I open it, my personal taste, because I only do stuff that I really like to eat. Then also, the product which is in season, it's always our first option to use. Then we have to think about the clients that we have, because in the end we're here to please our clients and give them the most, the best possible experience. And so we really need to do dishes and use products that adapt to the type of clients that we have. In that being said, so we have some of our dishes, let's say, there are classics and cornerstones of the restaurant, that those ones never change. So we have like 4 or 5 dishes that we always have on the menu. Either it's the the exact dish that never changes, or sometimes it's a technique that we use to and like an example, it's the pâté en croûte, something that we're quite renowned of doing it in Lisbon. So it's a technique. Sometimes we change the product inside, but we always use the same technique to showcase a different product in that case. Others, like the scarlet shrimp oven rice, we always have it because sometimes people come just because they miss it, or the lobster roll with caviar, also that one we always have. The lobster vol au vin we always have, and in the dessert, so we have the vanilla millefeuille with salted caramel. That one, it's actually the only dish that it's since day one of the restaurant, always the same, never changed, because I think it was the hardest one for me to learn at the time when I started doing pastry at Relais Louis in Paris. It was really hard because I never had done it before, and well, that recipe, I might say, that marked me. So it was a different version actually. So the version that I did of the one that I learned here. So it's been the same since day one. It will never change for sure.
And desserts, it's kind of a different niche, right? Working with
no, for me, since I worked in a pastry section in Paris as well in a restaurant. For me, it's the same. It's about taste. It's about understanding products. It's for me, it's cooking. I don't really do a difference when I cook sweet things or salty things. For me, it's the same. I don't. There's a lot of chefs that don't like to taste pastry, but well, before I did it and I didn't feel at ease doing it, I had that same attitude. But then it's always better if you're a chef and you know about pastry. In that way, you can show more. So I'd say that the entire menu will have your song imprinted on it, and not only the salty things, and then the desserts will be for another person. This way, it's really about the message and the memories that I want people to keep when they come here.
Is your kitchen more Portuguese or French, or it's an incorrect way of putting it?
Well, I think in the end it's more French, especially the style of cooking. Of course, we do work mainly with Portuguese products, but we always have some French products that we need to use according to the style of cooking that we like to do. Yeah, but it's more French cooking for sure.
Talking about Essencial, what's the concept of Essencial?
The concept. So let's say that the concept, it started from when I was in Paris. It was in 2011, I think, that Chef Alain Ducasse did a theme for his menu in the Plaza Athénée. It was the Essencial menu that he really wanted to keep the attention of his customers on the details, on the simpler things. So when you arrived to the table, you only had a napkin and a glass of water. So it's the same that we do here, and we like to keep all the attention of the client on the dish and on the wine, not on superficial things like too many art de la table in the table that will that you will lose your attention out of the food. So we really like to keep it on the food and on the wine, because for us that's the real expression of the restaurant. It must be about those things and not about the, let's say, Instagram details, or that restaurants nowadays, they all have it, which is good. I'm not against it, but it's just not our style.
And then you have this dining space very close to the open kitchen. Does it
yes,
influence?
Maybe too close.
Your...
This came, in the beginning it was because when I was living in Paris with two flatmates, we had a house that had an open kitchen, and in the weekends we would always have our friends there, and it would be really convivial because we were cooking stuff, people were in the dining room always talking, drinking, and it was really nice. So I kind of, let's say, I wanted to bring that vibe to my professional life as well when I opened my restaurant, and that's why we did it this way. And also because nowadays I think that people really want that connection with the persons that are really cooking. That's why in Essencial, for every dish that is served, it's a cook that comes to the table and explains the dish to the customers, because it will be easier to show their passion, because since it's them that cooks, they won't be, let's say, honored to explain that dish to the customer.
If you had a bigger space, anything that you would keep? Would you keep the stable? Would you keep the open kitchen?
Yes, I would keep an open kitchen as well. Maybe, well, of course, to have a bigger place, I would have, let's say, a kitchen, an open kitchen to the service to finish the plates, and of course, I would have a second kitchen, let's say, a closed kitchen to do all the production, in order to be able to be more organized in the way of the preps, so that the service would go as smoothly as it's right now here in this scale. But when I say bigger, I would definitely won't do it bigger than like 50, 60 covers at a time, because for me that's almost, I'd say that it's the limit that you can do if you want to really control everything that is getting out of the kitchen. For me, that's the limit.
What's important to have, let's say, to be part of your team? So what are the principles of you assembling the team?
The principle. So for me, a person that really wants to work at Essencial, you have to be focused, you have to be passionate about what you're doing, about receiving people. That's not only about cooking, it's really about receiving people. You have to have that feeling when you come here that you're going to a friend's house, and there's nothing better. In Portugal, we really have that sense. Well, it's really typical that in Portugal, people like to receive their friends at their houses, and we need to really show that feeling when we work here. That's the most important thing. Well, and then be passionate about what we do, be respectful of our co-workers, have the tendency to have a smile all day long, because when you work in a kitchen, it's a lot of hours a day, so it's better to do it smiling than to be unhappy all day long. So that's a really important thing.
How do you keep consistency without actually, let's say, I don't know, like suffocating creativity?
Well, that's hard, but so consistency is good, but for me, learning it's better. So we really do like to change dishes quite often. Almost every week we change something of the menu. In that way we sacrifice a little bit the consistency, but I think that will enhance the experience when someone comes here, because when they come, they can always see that we change some stuff on the menu, so they can always try new stuff. Or else, whenever they come, if it's always the same, it gets to a point that, in my vision, it becomes a little bit boring. Because for us, the biggest compliment it's if a customer comes and keeps coming, so it repeats. It's a sign that we're doing something well, I guess.
Okay, right. The signifiers of the fine dining. So what are those?
Fine dining for me. Fine dining, it's more what really defines a fine dining. In contrast with a good casual restaurant, let's say it's more about the service, and all the small details that come with it, like tablecloths. It's really a fine dining thing, although nowadays you already have a lot of fine dinings that don't have it. Details of the service, like serving the entire table at the same time, putting the dish in all the customers at the same time. I don't know, sometimes the type of glasses of wine, they do define as well a fine dining place. The accueil, so when you receive you have a person just to receive customers at the door. There's also an important thing. Well, it's a really a great amount of details that will define a fine dining, I guess.
Essential is more of a relaxed fine dining.
Well, it's a casual,
strong,
amazing restaurant. No, it's so we really like to keep it casual because it's the way it's our core. Here I like people to be more focused on the silent luxury. So the quality of the small stuff, of the products, of the kindness in which we treat them. It's not about having silverware on the table. It's not about that. It's about the human connection with people. For me, that's the real experience. So I would say that we are casual, but with a lot of emotion to it.
But there is still a line, in your opinion, in between fine and casual dining.
Yeah, of course. I think there's still a line, and there's room and customers for both of them. Although I think there's a lot of there's a new wave of customers that's are starting to get a little bit tired of all the all the stiffness of a fine dining, and so I think that more and more customers are choosing more relaxed restaurants, and it's not even about the price. It's more of the way of living. That's nowadays it's more relaxed than it was 10, 20 years ago. So people are chasing more that sensation than actually a fine dining.
Can we say that your cooking style is fused with Essential, or they just go hand in hand?
No, they go hand by hand. My cooking style, it really defines Essential in a lot of ways. So in the way that I see life, the way that all that I like to eat, it's exactly what we do in Essential. And yeah, I would say that we go hand by hand.
What do you cook for yourself at home after a long service?
Well, when I get, if I'm just cooking for myself, I don't usually, well, if it's at the end of the service when I get home at night, maybe I do a toast and I eat a yogurt because I'm too tired to eat anything and I just want to go to bed and sleep. It's because I have to get every day really early in the morning to get my kids ready to take them to school. So it's not really, I don't have a resting time, not at all. I only cook at home usually if I have friends at home, or if some night I'm not doing service and I'm home with my kids. Yeah, sometimes, yeah, in that sense, I do cook with them, simpler stuff, but yeah, and they really like to participate as well, because I think they have a feeling that it's a way for them to connect with me, so they always want to cook with me, actually.
Understood, right. How do you protect, maybe you partially answered that question by changing dishes on the menu, like protect the Essential from being kind of predictable?
Predictable? Yeah, the predictable is not good in anything in life. And yeah, we do try to avoid that by changing stuff every week. And sometimes, well, my staff, they don't really like it when change everything last minute, or even sometimes even at the middle of the service. Sometimes we change stuff. Yeah, but I think that really helps us going forward, and also it helps us when we have something that it's missing. So we have more tools to change the situation at last minute, in order to, in the end, the customer doesn't know it, and it gets really surprised of what we're able to serve.
Got it. Talking about Lisbon and that it's getting more and more of international attention, do you think that Lisbon can be like the smart on a map, like a gastromark on a map?
Well, I think that Lisbon is getting more and more in attention, gastronomic, if we're talking on gastronomy. Although a mark, I don't know, like if we're talking about a mark, as we talked about, like France, Japan, Italy, Denmark nowadays, maybe not that's on that level, but I would say that's on the next level. Yes, definitely in Lisbon it's getting a lot of attention right now. You have a lot of amazing new chefs that are really doing an amazing work, that we're getting more and more of attention. Also, I would say well deserved, because if someone gets attention, it's because they're doing something right. But yeah, we're trying to make our mark. Let's hope that in a couple of years we can try to be next to the big boys.
And this conviviality we were mentioning before, this generosity and informality, that even like fine dining informality, let's say, can it be this cornerstone, the fundamentals of this mark?
I think that so every country has something that define them, and hospitality in Portugal, it's really something really big, because we always had so Portugal always had in its history, we were voyagers, and we really did connect with a lot of different cultures, and we brought a bit of that home as well. So we really liked as well to receive other cultures, and I think being nice to foreigners, it's a way of being in Portugal, and I think that's really something, a plus that we have when we receive tourists in Portugal, something that we really enjoy.
And how to ensure that it's not like cooking for tourists, that it's not tourism gastronomy journeys, but more of kind of setting up the
I think
the discourse around that.
That's a really difficult balance to have, because there is that. So once you get more, you have more recognition. You have more attention of the tourists, and usually when they come, they do organize their trips in advance, so they have the tendency to book earlier than the Portuguese people, that they always want to book less time possible. So it's a really difficult thing to manage, and yes, we do try to try to fit everyone as much as we can, and some of the Portugueses, sometimes we can try to keep a couple of open tables for last minute bookings, in order to keep I'd say the soul of the restaurant always present, because when you go to a different city and you go to a restaurant, you usually go there because you're trying to to mix with their culture. So if you go to the restaurant, it's always good to have as well local community in, either if it's Portuguese or even foreigners that are living in Portugal, and so they become part of the local community, and that's important to have that community as well, in not only tourists. So we really like to preserve that local feeling in our entering other chefs. Maybe I like to other chefs. Well, I do. I think when you're a chef, a really big part of your job, it's about passing a message, forming other cooks in order for them to continue the, let's say, the good work that you're doing. So really reminding them that the first steps, the small steps, they're the most important ones, so that it's always them that's gonna assure you that you're gonna move forward. So that's the most important thing. You really have to show them that respecting the products, your colleagues, the basis of every recipe, and that there's no shortcuts. That's so one of the biggest, let's say, responsibilities that we have. It's about forming other generations in order to keep our so restaurants and cooking moving forwards. That's a really important thing. So mentoring, I wouldn't say that I would grab someone that's going to be mini André or something. No, that doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, passing the message, forming people in order to make them grow, and that they will be ambitious to one day be much better than you. It's always a good sign.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.